Well, it started with the Bar Mitzvah as MJF came out alongside 4 women. And Excalibur says that bar mitzvahs are usually not this bad. And MJF immediately sets the tone by telling the audience that Sean was better than Brett. So I think he was coming out here with the expectation that he might get cheered. So he had this one immediately to diffuse the crowd. So he says that his religion is the only one that matters. They are the chosen people. He already had his bar mitzvah, but after March 5th, he became the best wrestler in the world. He is not merely a human, but is an Iron Man, and is probably the moniker he will be going by now.
Would they have enjoyed the Iron Man plug, on a show dedicated to Shazam?
I don't know if that might have crossed promotional guidelines for DC.
Disney character.
That's right. Yes. So then the bar mitzvah itself begins, and we get the individuals running down with the chair. Forgive me, I don't know what this is called, but this seemed like a lot of fun, and the crowd was into this. They were clapping along. They're holding hands around the chair, and then Jack Perry has to ruin the party and interrupts this. I almost thought this was this crowd was not ready for this to end so quickly.
Maybe culturally insensitive to come in and ruin somebody's bar mitzvah.
Yeah, it's like this Jack Perry is living in the Stone Ages.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing you don't have that report yet, John?
I do. Do you want us to get our official correspondent, Jonathan Pine? I thought they did a good job. Sadly, we didn't get a cantor singing his theme song or a bema, but the visual of the chosen people rushing down the entrance ramp with a chair to perform the horror with MJF was fantastic. The added touch of the blue and white streamers and balloons was very nice. I was hoping they would recite, I'm not even going to try this word, the shit. I can't for the life of me pronounce this. This is like the hardest word I have ever seen in my life. No, I owe it to people to try this one. The Shehecha Chan Yanu. I have no idea. Work the phlegm for the second he says in this. The traditional Jewish prayer that is said before events, but he can save that for the fall during the high holidays. A 10 out of 10 segment. I can't wait for MJF to have a child so we can have our first pro wrestling bris.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll get that one on Dynamite. Maybe on Rampage. I don't know. Thank you, John Pine. I wanted to go to this one too because it comes to us from David Porges from Israel, who sends $69.90 Israeli denomination.
Not dollars.
Yeah, not dollars. He says it was nice to see some Jewish representation on Dynamite. Don't remember the hot girls making out part in my bar mitzvah though. Mazel tov on your birthday away. I'll be donating to WWF Canada in your name. Thank you so much. Yes.
You should definitely explain where he's donating to.
Yeah.
Way has joined the WWE, folks.
I've joined the WWF.
He's launching the Canadian office once again, and he is the new Carl DeMarco of Canada.
That's it. Yeah. No. I wish. I'm actually doing a CN Tower climb a month from now, and it's in support of the WWF, the World Wildlife Fund, and I'm trying to raise funds. So if you go to my social media at way0937, you will find a link if you so choose to support my goal of reaching all 1,776 steps of the CN Tower. So yeah, very funny. Thank you very, very much, David, for the support. Anyway, so good comprehensive coverage, I would say, of this bar mitzvah. So what's the consensus here? Hot girls aside, was it accurate?
It sounds like they were very faithful to the bar mitzvah tradition.
Okay. Well, wonderful.
So Jungle Boy is out, but before he can speak, Sammy Guevara comes out, and then Darby Allin. So we get the 4 pillars in the ring together, and
standing in each corner.
They're in each corner. Yes, I did like the layout of this whole thing. And MJF is furious for all of them trying to ruin his bar mitzvah. All of them in sync state that they want a title match, and we get each one getting their chance to make their case. Jungle Boy states that at Double or Nothing 2020, MJF cheated to beat him. And after that match, MJF went on to be handed everything while I continued on Dark. You've never wrestled on Dark. You've never wrestled on Elevation. I don't think you've even wrestled on Rampage. This locker room busts its ass, and they try to get maybe 60 seconds a week of TV time while you take up 20 minutes for the same hokey bullshit you've been doing for 4 years. This place revolves around you, and the first step to correcting that is taking the title off of you. MJF explains, unlike you and everyone else in that locker room, I'm actually a star here. And Guevara pipes in stating that he will make this re-bar mitzvah a re-circumcision, which is quite the threat.
How would that work?
I don't know how you re-circumcise.
I would hate to even imagine. Like what? They didn't get it all the first time?
I don't know. This would probably be where Warner Brothers Discovery does put their foot down on content. He says that you talk too much. You kissed ass to get here. Meanwhile, I had to grind and work at Whataburger and Subway to get here. And I was initially told that I was just going to be the Inner Circle's job guy and take bumps for Jericho. But I went on, I became a champion, and the machine never pushed me. And he's telling this story, and it's like his rise and working hard and taking all these dead-end jobs to get here to a company. And then just out of nowhere, like, not like these Canadian idiots, it just comes out of nowhere. It's like this whole crowd was behind Sammy Guevara, and then he just reminds them, yeah, I hate all of you. And
he became too much of a baby face, I think he realized.
I guess so, but to me, for this night, I think you could have just rode this wave, and you were basically going to be with one of the biggest baby faces on the show in the main event. So I don't think we really had to just throw this line in to make sure you get booed at the end of it. It just felt so off from the message. And then Darby is the last one here, and he speaks of going to film school 10 years ago, and he turned in a film and was told to change everything because we don't accept movies of this nature. And I think... Yeah.
Knowing that Darby went to film school, I kind of feel explains a whole lot, you know, not just maybe about like obviously the creativity, but also the films, the short films that he seems to do every single weekend, and just maybe also a lot.
I would love to know the other side of this conversation with the professor that has their side of the story. It was like, no. There was nothing about what was on the video. We could not show this video to in a classroom. Okay, this was basically a snuff film. Yeah. So he, instead of editing the movie, he dropped out of school and became a pro wrestler, that's one solution to your problem. And he told everyone he would either succeed or fail as Darby Allin, but he would never change. And he might be the worst businessman, but he told Tony Khan, I will never be the subject of a bidding war because I'm never going to leave, which is the Jay Briscoe story that everyone told after his passing, that, you know, when him and Mark's contracts were coming up, they would go in and they'd sit down, and before they even get into talking, Jay would go, now let's just get this out of the way. There ain't no way we're leaving here. And they just throw their leverage out the window. So looks like Darby took from that school of thought. And then speaks about the fact that he is so sick of grown wrestlers complaining on Twitter about their television time, about contracts, and that includes you, MJF, with this bidding war crap. And AEW means more to me than it does to you. And if I don't get what I want, then I'm going to complain on Twitter. I'm just joking. I'm going to attack you with my skateboard and beat you with a headlock takeover. A callback to their match at Full Gear 2021. And this was almost like the roast of MJF. And then at the end, he gets the mic to go through each one. And he takes off his glasses, revealing his eyes all messed up from the match against Danielson that you could see. I mean, it looked even worse when he posted the photo last week where that knot that we mentioned was on his forehead. It had drained into his eye. So his eye, it looked like he had a broken orbital, but did not.
They were bloodshot. Yeah.
It looked terrible. But he's got like black eyes. Like he looked
black
awful.
Eyes. I kind of sense more might have more been makeup, but I mean, like they did not look good. No.
And he says that You know, Jungle Boy with Christian, Sammy Guevara with Jericho, and Darby with Sting. He's the only one that never had to enroll in AEW Daddy Daycare and have allegiances. You guys are all pillars, but I'm the only one that can keep this place up. I've beaten each one of you in singles matches and tells them all to leave. Pie faces Jungle Boy, and it leads to a big brawl, and MJF gets knocked off the apron and into his cake, keeping the tradition alive of cakes in professional wrestling. But this was a very rare 20-minute opening segment on Dynamite.
Yeah. And I know, like, maybe, you know, AEW has shied away from it because it's such a trope of a WWE show to start the show off with a 20-minute segment. I certainly didn't mind it here. And in fact, I kind of enjoyed, you know, the emphasis on getting to see the personalities of several of these other, you know, roster members. I mean, MJF, of course, yeah, like they're complaining about him taking up the show too much with these 20-minute segments. But I mean, look at the spot that where he's at. You know, he's a guy who could talk this well, and I think he's definitely deserving of these, you know, 20-minute spots. The other three, I thought this was a great way to maybe elevate the other three pillars, because you already have MJF in a very credible and a very established main event role. And now to give that level of spotlight to some of these others, certainly at least diminishes that gap a little bit more. Jungle Boy, I think, really benefits. I thought he had some great lines here, and I don't know if, like, he's believable right now as a title contender, but at least he should, you know, put himself in the conversation so that he eventually gets to be seen that way. Sammy Guevara, I kind of feel like, is way down. Like, he could talk, and I thought he sounded great here, but he's been such a, you know, faction guy for so long, and like it's definitely maybe hardest for me to take him seriously. Darby, I think, is very much next in line. You know, he's a guy who has just been fantastic in singles feuds. He's been multiple-time TNT champion, and I think he's the type of guy that the crowd is certainly ready to see take that next step, at least challenging for a world championship. And I see him coming out of this as the one that MJF might face next. Probably not big enough for a pay-per-view match, but I mean, for a big edition of Dynamite, I like that a lot.
So you're seeing one coming out of this. You don't see a four-way as a potential direction.
Not necessarily.
Because I think that is sort of what you're left here, of like the idea of the four pillars. Like, this is as ready a time as you can to, if you were to do such a match, this would seem like the time to do it. And to be quite honest, when I look at this, like, this is a viable path that you can do. And you could certainly get a lot of matches out of this. You could also do the four-way. I also feel that if you're stating that, like, there's this countdown clock attached to his career, MJF and Sting, there is something to that match that I think would generate a lot of interest from people.
No doubt. Absolutely.
And you could argue that might be, like, of the available options of just something different, and MJF being the perfect person that could be put in that kind of a situation. Like, I think there's something there with an MJF Sting match. It's to do at some point before Sting is done. It
would be fun, but I mean, Sting hasn't had a singles match in AEW yet, you know.
That's part of the intrigue.
Yeah. I guess, like, I wonder if we want to break down that mystique. Like, it could potentially expose Sting, you know, to put him in the ring for that long. He can't just rely on, like, a big stunt, you know. Like, he has to actually wrestle at an MJF world title standard. And you know, are they brave enough to put him in that situation?
I think if you threw on, like, title versus career as well, I mean, that is, like, that's a big match that you can do. And Sting is not missed in these matches, and I think this would be the next challenge of doing a main event world title match that is a different level of ask on Sting, who is what, 63 this year, 64.
Yeah, I feel like his retirement match at this point might if he chooses to retire, I think it makes maybe more sense to have Darby, you know, be that person. But that's also incredibly difficult, like maybe even more difficult than an MJF match for Sting to go alone.